This is Alabama Politics with Steve Flowers, an in-depth interview with Alabama's top political newsmakers. Now, from the studios of Troy University, here is Steve Flowers.
I'm Steve Flowers, and welcome to Alabama Politics. Folks, we're fortunate tonight to have one of my good friends who served in the legislature with me and is a legend around Goat Hill, former Representative Noopie Cosby of Selma. Y'all may have heard me tell the story of Noopie. I know Kowalski and Ronnie have heard it over the years, and we'll talk about Noopie's story, but I want to welcome Noopie. He knows as much about Alabama politics as anybody I've had on the show. He's been around it all of his life. Noopie, good to have you on the show, my friend.
Steve, it's great to be here. I appreciate you having me.
Noopie and old Seth Hammond were real good friends. Y'all came together in '78.
We sure did. We were roommates for 14 of the 16 years I served in the legislature.
I'd forgotten about that.
Yep.
You and Seth were roommates. He's now speaker, chief of staff.
Yeah, that's right.
I knew y'all were good friends. I didn't know that y'all were. He and Jack Venable were good friends too.
Right, they were very good friends. As a matter of fact, I had a bill to create the Economic Development Authority in Selma. And I showed Seth the bill, and he said, that's a pretty good idea. I think I'll use that. And so he created one down in Covington County and hired our EDA director.
Y'all, Noopie represented Dallas County and Selma. Noopie, 16 years? How long were you in the House?
16 years. I got elected in 1978 to 94. I was 29 years old when I got elected.
I didn't know that. We had similar things because I came in '82, and I was 30, and I saved 16 years to 98.
Very
almost. And Seth came the same time you did.
Right.
Now, Seth was young too, though.
He was. He's about 3 years older than me, I think.
So, Noopie, you were 29 years old?
I was 29. I was the second youngest. Jim Smith from Huntsville beat me by about 6 months.
He was that young?
He was that young. He was 28
looked
and a
older
half.
than that.
Yeah. He was 28 and a half when he got elected.
He was in the House, not the Senate.
He was in the House.
Hey, Noopie, so you grew up in Selma and everything, and born in Selma over there, so you know everybody. You know, I told somebody this the other day. Matt McAuliffe likes to tell the story that he didn't ever know what my God-given name was because I go by Tree a lot. I got that nickname in college, and I never knew what your God-given name was. I've written articles about it, and I said, you know, I didn't know what Noopie's I thought his God-given name was Noopie.
My name is William Francis Cosby, Jr. And when I got ready to run for the legislature, I told my daddy, I said, Daddy, I don't know, what am I going to put down here on these cards? I can't run as Noopie Cosby. I said, you know, Noopie Cosby, that just didn't, you know, that doesn't sound like what y'all call a legislator, you know. He said, son, he said, if you don't run as Noopie Cosby, ain't nobody going to know you. He said, first of all, they think it's me. They ain't gonna vote for you. So I said, so we compromised. I ran as WF Noopie Cosby.
That's how you always went too on your stuff, Noopie Cosby. Hey, Noopie, what about? Remember one time you went at the university, sort of when I was there.
That's right.
And we knew each other in college. Were you an ATO?
That's right.
Yeah, and I was Sigma Nu. We used to have that Blackfoot
That's
Whitefoot
right.
party.
Sure did.
And
yeah, Ricky Rhodes was there.
Yeah. He's the one who gave me the nickname Tree.
Yeah.
It's like Animal House in our pledge class. Ricky Rhodes sat there. He was Mayor Bay Minette for a long time. He says, you know how they gave everybody a nickname?
Yeah.
And they said, okay, he's tall and named Flowers, we'll call him Tree.
Yeah.
And it stuck.
Yeah.
But you got Noopie when you were a little boy, didn't you?
I did. The fellow that my parents were renting a house from started calling me Noopie, and we never did find out. He had a stroke. We never found out. My mama liked it. She thought it was cute. She didn't want to call me Francis Jr., so Noopie
That's
is what
how
I
you
was.
got Noopie.
That's all. I didn't know how to spell it, how we were going to spell it, so...
N-O-O-P-I?
N-O-O-P-I-E is how we figured out we'd spell it.
Noopie, you know, when I was thinking about running for the legislature, of course, I'd always figured I would. Grew up in Troy and I always liked politics and was sort of a mentor of our representative and I always assumed I was going to run. And he had told me he wasn't going to run, so I was getting ready to run. And I remember going into the Capitol to see somebody on the corner of the Capitol, and you were already a freshman legislator. Do you remember that day? I
do.
I sat there and said, Noopie, I'm running. He said, you're crazy to do this. He told me not to. Remember that scene?
I do remember it very much.
I said, remember you from college? He said, Noopie, I'm thinking about running for the House. He said, don't do it.
I said, you don't want to do it. And I stayed 16 years, and you did too.
But you know what I enjoyed?
I did too. I think it's, you know, I'm kind of like you. I was talking to Ronnie earlier about his family is military service. Well, my family had political service. My first cousin was David Whetstone, who was the mayor of Prattville, who died in office, and my great-great-grandfather was Mordecai White, and served in the legislature, and my other great-great-grandfather was a sheriff of Watauga County back in that same period of time.
Named Cosby?
No, he was Whetstone.
Oh, yeah.
And the grandfather that was in the legislature was Mordecai White, but my grandfather was John Patterson's campaign coordinator when he ran against Governor Wallace.
In 58?
And I was 10 years old.
What was his name?
His name was Benjamin Freeman Cosby.
And where did he live?
He lived in Selma. And his brother was the Republican chairman for Dallas County. Ben Eisenhower was president, and there wasn't no Republicans in Dallas County.
No.
But he became the Republican chairman, and he became the postmaster.
And that's right. He was Patterson's campaign manager in 58.
My grandfather was, yeah.
The only time old Wallace ever lost a race for governor.
That's right, yeah. And Governor Patterson swore me in my last time.
I've had Governor Patterson on the show.
He's a great man.
It was a great show.
Yeah.
He told some good stories.
Yeah.
We have some good stories in that thing. Noopie, after you came in '78, you fit right in with that. Not wrong to call them just the black belt organization, but had McCorkadale as speaker, Manley as pro tem. Yeah, you were in that group with McCorkadale and Manley.
Yeah, it's kind of a regional thing, Steve.
Alpha and everything was strong with that group.
Yeah, and it's kind of a regional thing. When you support folks from your area, kind of first. I never will forget Lynn Greer had called me up, wanted me to support him as Speaker Pro Tem, and I said, well, I've already committed to Mr. Manley. He said, well, would you support a motion to allow us to have a secret ballot? I said, well, I don't know. I don't know about that. Now he said, well, didn't you get elected on the secret ballot? I said, yes, sir, I did. He said, well, don't you think that's where we ought to elect the leadership? I said, well, I don't know. It seems fair to me. Well, that's how dumb I was, you know. So we get ready to come down there, and we get ready to do the vote, and they make the motion for the secret ballot, and I vote yes. Well, Rick Manley comes down on me like a hawk. He said, what are you doing? What are you doing? I said, well, I think it's fair. He said, we got to have a roll call vote with the going machine. He said, we won't know if our commitments are going to hold up.
That's right.
Oh, okay. Well,
I
said, well, let me tell you something, Mr. Manley. My commitment held up to Mr. Greer. I told him I'd vote for it, and I did. And so to this day, Lynn, he tells that story. And of course, down here, if you don't tell people what the truth of the matter, you don't last long.
Noopie, speaking of that Rick Manley organization, you came in '78 and Favre was the governor, and you worked closely with Favre because Favre was a conservative governor, pro-business, and you were in a pro-business conservative group, very conservative group with McCorkadale and Manley and everything. And you actually voted for a gasoline tax that Favre passed. Subsequent, tell how that worked.
Yeah, I did. We had a gasoline tax, 4 cents a gallon. It was 79 sessions, the first session, and I had heartburn over that vote, Steve. I actually ran a poll in my district in the newspaper. Now, who does that? So I ran a poll. I met with the governor. The governor told us what all we were going to get out of the gas tax if it passed, and so on and so forth. And I went on did an editorial. I went on the Viewpoint radio show, did all this, ran the poll, got people to cut out the newspaper ad and mail it in. 101 people mailed it in. 101 people took the time to do it. 51 people voted for the tax. 50 voted no. Oh man, I said, that ain't an overwhelming majority, is it? So I still didn't know what I was going to do, and the next day I called my mother, and I was having some anxiety over it, and I told her, and I tell this quick story about how I came about on the vote. My grandmother had a curb market, and she had went into Selma, and they had an old dirt road. 14 was a dirt road, and it rained. Come up a big rain about 2 or 3 days, so there was a bunch of ruts in the road, and so they had the cargo loaded down with chickens and eggs and collards and all the stuff they was taking, and so they had an accident because of the ruts and lost about half the stuff. Now, this is a true story. My grandmother, several days later, had to go pawn her wedding ring. So she pawned the wedding ring, and the guy told her, he said, y'all save this ring until you can come back and buy it. And my mama was about in tears telling me the story. And so I said, well, Mama, I don't really understand why you're telling me this story. What's it got to do with this vote tomorrow? I mean, today that we fixed to vote on. And my mother said, Noopie, I bet your grandmother wished that Highway 14 had had a paved road that day. I said, I bet she did too, so I knew how I was going to vote. So I voted for it. It didn't pass. 31 of us voted for it. So the next thing we did, we ran down to the governor's office and said, we voted for a tax that ain't passed. So about make a long story short, they said they was going to take care of us. And so they did. I was announcing highway projects out of other people's.
Then it subsequently passed.
It passed the next year, 1980 it passed. 31 of us voted for it.
Noopie, moving on to 82, you came back your second term in 82. You kind of knew where you were situated because you were in with Manley. Manley was running for Speaker.
That's right.
Now, you remember what was happening. I was a freshman legislator. I'll tell you my scenario in that situation. And I had Pike County by itself, but I also went over and got part of Barber. I actually had Wallace's hometown in my district.
Yeah.
I had Clayton and Clive in my district, and I had known Wallace when I was a little boy paging up there and gotten to know him. And so what was happening, if you recall, you had a speaker's race. When I was a freshman, you were in your second term, the alpha pro-business people had about 33 votes for Rick Manley when you were in that group. And AEA and Dr. Hubbard had about 33 votes for Roy Johnson, who was their candidate. There were 33 of us they couldn't count. The reason they couldn't count me is both those groups had endorsed me. Both of them had figured I was going to win, and we're just riding a winning horse. So I figured, well, both of them endorsed me. What I did as a newly elected representative, Wallace still had a race to go with Emory Farmer, if you recall. But a rich man's segregation won't beat a poor man's segregation, and that's about what it was. Emory Farmer was a silk stocking segregation, and Wallace was a country segregation. And Wallace beat him like a drum. I knew Wallace would beat him, so I went to Wallace and I said, Governor, I'm going to be for your choice for Speaker, because I'd learned that as a young representative, you're supposed to be for the governor. Besides, I was his representative. Well, that race went on, and Wallace, I was real proud of my loyalty because I wouldn't succumb to that pressure. There was a lot of pressure. Those of us that were in that 30 group got pressure every day, Noopie.
Yeah, I remember.
My call came about midnight. You know how he would call you late at night, Wallace would, and it was right after the election, and about 3 weeks before the special session, a regular organizational session to vote for Speaker. And he would call me and said, I've got somebody I want you to talk to, Steve. We understand, and it was Tom Drake. He'd picked Tom Drake because Tom was so loyal to him, Noopie. If he told Drake to jump off the Capitol, Drake could just say, what time?
That's right.
Remember how loyal he was to Wallace?
I do remember.
And so anyway, the story was, he said, Steve, we understand you're on board. I said, well, Tom, I don't know you, but if you're the governor's choice for Speaker, that I'm going to vote for you because I've committed to the governor. And so I was one of the first ones on board. And then, as you know, Drake won that thing, and they kicked Manley's group out, and then they brought in Roy Johnson group anyway.
Right.
So then we arrived, and Wallace is now wearing his New Deal liberal progressive hat, and Noopie, he was trying to pass everything that wasn't nailed down.
Right.
And so I was sitting next to Jim Pruitt from Talladega. Jim and I were Wallace's favorite freshmen because I was his representative, and Jim had been giving him cards for his campaigns for years. Wasn't anything against the law to do that then, you know. So he put one of us on rules and one of us on Ways and Means, something like that. And I was on rules. Of course, we never met. Wallace just sent the agenda down from the governor's office. But the story I'm trying to set the stage for is the famous Noopie Cosby story. I'm sitting there voting on half those taxes because Wallace is calling me one of his floor leaders. And I finally told Pruitt, I said, Pruitt, I just don't believe I can vote for any more of these taxes. I swear I voted for about 10 of them, I believe. I ain't going to be elected to nothing if I get, I'm going to have the worst vote record you've ever seen in your life. And the next one happened to be was a pretty significant gasoline tax for roads.
Yeah.
And I had noticed that you hadn't voted for many of those taxes. And I says, Noopie's not voting for many of those taxes. Of course, I don't blame him. But I was supposed to be one of Wallace's floor leaders, and Pruitt was voting for him. I said, Pruitt, I'm falling off the wagon on this gas tax. And Pruitt said, I think I do too. I'd like to sell cars, and I don't especially want a gasoline tax. So me and Pruitt fell off the tax. So folks, what happened was Wallace would bring us down there in small groups to the governor's office. And in that group was me and Pruitt over here, and then Noopie and the bad boys were in there with us who weren't voting for the taxes. We were down there together. I don't know whether I'll tell the story, but I'm going to let Noopie tell the story because I've told y'all this story of Noopie. I'm setting the stage. Wallace has called all of us down there. Now, Noopie, you tell the story of the Noopie Cosby story and how many times he called you Nudie. But Wallace, as you know, folks, could not hear. And he was a little hard of hearing in his latter years. Also, he was in bad health because he had been shot 4 or 5 times.
Right.
He was on pain medication.
Right.
And he looked over at me and Pruitt. He didn't quite understand why we were in the room, so he zeroed in on Noopie.
Right.
So Noopie, you tell the story. I'll try to tell it and tell the whole story.
Okay.
About the whole thing. So I'll set the stage for y'all. We're downstairs in the governor's room. He's hotboxing us.
We in the governor's office, and when you go in there to meet with the governor, with Wallace, he got everybody. You know, he got the highway director, he got the finance director, he got the ADECA director, he got anybody and everybody gonna do something for you. He just didn't have the highway director for road, he got everybody. And they got you and they looking at you and you're starting to sweat, you know, and I hadn't voted for many of those proposals, just like you said I hadn't voted for many of them. But remember, we came up with the governor called it his enhancement package. And it was about $350 million he was trying to raise, similar to what the conditions of states in today, except back then that'd be like, well, $700–800 million, I guess.
Right, it would be, huh?
So he had his enhancement package, and me and Taylor Harper, remember, we came up with a package, and we called it, what did we call it, Steve? I forgot.
Y'all called it emancipation.
Emancipation plan,
yeah.
That's right. We had an emancipation plan.
Y'all called emancipate the state tax system.
Right, we're going to free the money up. That's
yeah.
what we were going to do. We thought we were so smart.
Y'all
you know?
progressive.
Yeah, but what we really was trying to do was get the governor to kind of meet us halfway and moderate, but he wasn't going to have that. He going to have it his way or no way. So we come in there, and you remember they had that map out there on the desk there. The big long table he had there, and we looked at that map, and he looked at me and he said, Nudie, and I said, sir? He said, Nudie. I said, yes, sir. He said, your name Nudie, right? I said, no, Noopie. Nudie, it's good to see you, buddy. And I said, well, I'm not going to try to tell him what my name is. We just keep on talking. He said, but buddy, it's good of you to be here in my office today with these other good representatives, and I want to talk to you about my highway plan. And buddy, you have a highway plan? And I said, well, no, Governor, I don't have a highway plan. But buddy, you need to get you one. And I said, well, okay, I want to get me one. He said, yes, because I tell you, I know if you got an itch, I've got the scratcher. I'll scratch your itch all day long with all the highways you want. And I said, yeah, that's great, Governor. That's what I want. And so we looked down and he said, well, look here. Farrell Patrick was the legislative liaison. He said, Farrell, show Nudie here. Show Nudie how we going to help him. So Farrell told me, come on in, and we looked down at the map, and they showed me Dallas County and the part of Dallas County that they're going to work on. And I looked at the map, and I looked back at the governor, and I said, Governor? He said, what did you say, buddy? I said, Governor, this map right here. Yes, sir, that's the map we're going to do. I said, well, Governor said, we got a problem. He said, what is the problem, Nudie? I said, well, the problem is the road you're going to pave in Dallas County is not in my district. That's not in my district, Governor. He said, it's not in your district. I said, no, sir. He said, buddy, it's been good to see you. So you come back again sometime. I said, well, wait a minute. I want to talk to you about paving another road. He said, well, we can't change the plan up. We're just going to have to do what's in the plan. We don't have time to change the plan, but you just tell your mom and daddy I said hello and bring your pages to see me next time you're here. And I said, well, okay. So I moved on out of the way, and he talked to some other folks. So, you know, we were sitting in there, and I said, well, darn, you know, I'm not going to get anything. So I know I'm not going to vote for the tax for sure now. And because I had voted for the tax 4 years ago, and I told the governor, I said, Governor, I voted for the tax when Fob James was governor. He said, well, we're not talking about Fob James. And let me tell you this, we're not having any taxes while I'm governor. So these are enhancement bills. This is a consumer protection bill is what this is. And I said, oh, okay, well, I said, I understand what you're trying to do. We need to make sure that the people know what they're paying for. He said, that's exactly right. And I said, well, still, Governor, That's not in my. You're not doing anything in my district. So I get ready to go out, and I see Ray Bass. He's a highway director. So they just shoo me out the office. Just get out of here. And I said, well, I ain't gonna
As
work.
he called you Nudie about 15
Yeah,
times.
oh, he called it Nudie. And so I saw Mr. Bass. I said, Mr. Bass, would you come out? Now, I'm 33 years old. I'm still young, my second term. I'm still learning a little bit, And so we go out the hallway, and I said, Mr. Bass, I said, I need to talk to you. He said, well, yeah, what is it? I said, you remember 4 years ago when you come to me and needed some help out of me? I said, yeah, I sure did. I said, see, Ray Bass had run for lieutenant governor in 78.
Ran a pretty good race.
Yeah, 11 of them ran, but he didn't win. So he didn't have a job. He'd been the highway director. So he met with Judge Jones in Dallas County. They figured out they was going to hire him as a county engineer. And so they did. And they called me in the office to tell me they were going to hire Ray Bass to be our county engineer. And this was my first term. And I'm thinking, oh, man, this is great. I'm going to have the former highway director is going to be my county engineer so he can tell me everything about the highway department. So anyway, he comes in there and they said, but we got a problem. And I said, what's the problem? He said, Ray doesn't have a land surveyor's license. I said, well, why is that a problem? He said, well, a county engineer has to have a land surveyor's license. I said, you telling me we can get the former highway director to be our county engineer, but he can't be it because he ain't got a land surveyor's license? They said, that's right. I said, well, I don't know what we can do about that. And so Judge Jones and Mr. Bass said, yeah, you can do something. I said, what? I said, you can amend the law and repeal Dallas County from the law. And I said, well, now, I'm in my first term, I said, well, I've been to this orientation. They teach us things over there. And I said, I don't think you can repeal a county from the state law.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, yeah, you can do it. I said, no, I don't think so. And Mr. Bass leaned over and put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, son, I said, yes. He said, you can do anything you want to do until it's this. I said, well, I think this is unconstitutional. He said, no. He said, ain't nothing unconstitutional until it's challenged.
Exactly right.
I said, okay.
That's exactly
so
right.
I went down there and put the bill in, and it came up on the floor, and I looked up, and there was 3 people lined up on the other side. And I said, oh, goodness, they're going to kill my bill. They already going to be opposed to it. Somebody out here is opposed to it. So the first fella came up, and he said, I have an amendment to offer. I said, okay. He said, I want to add
to your local bill?
No, it was a statewide bill.
Okay.
It was a statewide bill because the county engineer law was statewide. It wasn't a local bill.
You would change it by state, yeah.
It was a statewide bill, but I was only taking Dallas County out of it. So he has an amendment to take Pickens out.
This is done in your first term?
Yeah, my first term. And so I said, okay, so they put 2 or 3 amendments on it, take 2 or 3 more counties and pass. I don't even know if it's still a law or not today. But anyway, so Mr. Bass and I, after I left Governor Wallace's office, we went out in the hallway out there. And I told him, I said, okay, I took care of you with that bill for 4 years. You was our engineer, and you're going to take care of me for 4 years. Why are you over here? And he said, son, don't worry about a thing. So anyway, Steve, we go back and we vote for the gas tax, and I don't vote for it. So 2 weeks after it passed, about 2 weeks after it passed, Ray Bass called me up. He said, we got an announcement down here in Selma going to announce $10 million for Dallas County Highway Department. Need you down there at the foot of the bridge with Earl Goodwin. I said, I'll be there. So I got into every announcement, and then he told me whatever I want to try to get in the budget, whatever program I had to let him know he will take care of me and protect me from the other folks.
Did old Earl know you hadn't voted for the gas tax?
Yeah.
He voted for it. He was governor's for it.
He voted for it. He voted for it. But I voted for it the first time, when it didn't pass.
Earl Goodwin was a powerful man in Wallace's administration.
Well, yeah, he was a big floor leader for the governor. Matter of fact, when Governor Wallace gave his first speech, after he had been the assassination attempt, when he gave his first speech, that contraption he had that he stood up in, they made that at Bush Hall.
Earl Goodwin made it for him?
Right. Senator Goodwin was an owner of Bush Hall, and they made that.
Senator Goodwin passed away.
Yes, he did, yeah. But anyway, that's like Paul Harvey said, page 2. You haven't been telling page 2.
I have never told page 2 about Bass. I didn't know that.
You didn't know it. Nobody has known it publicly until today.
We finally told the part 2, the Noopie story, where Wallace called Noopie 15 or 20 times, and Jim Pruitt and I were over there laughing. We said, I don't know how many times he's going to call him Nudie. And he called him Nudie. But one thing he did say, I forget you said, he says, Nudie, you know, when I was a young legislator from Barber County, I had me a road program.
Yeah, I had a road program.
Now, Nudie, you need a road program for that. Didn't he mention Highway 82? 82,
not 80, it was Highway 80.
80, I meant 80,
and,
yeah. He said 80, called 80 a murderous road, didn't he?
Yeah, well, it's Blood Alley.
That's what he called
Blood
it, yeah.
Alley.
The one that they marched to Montgomery on.
Right.
The main highway is.
And see, we passed it, and what we did under the Fob James plan is we started from Demopolis to Selma. Now, 80's paved all the way, I think, to the Mississippi line, except for 9 miles in Uniontown. And Mayor Hayden was the mayor, and the Longs family, they were going to loop around Uniontown, and the Longs had their big farm up there, and Mayor Hayden didn't want it to go outside of Uniontown because he wanted the Uniontown to still get the business coming through there. And so the two political people that fought each other politically all this time, Long and Hayden, teamed up to go against the highway department, and that still hadn't been looped. That little loop.
That still ain't been done?
No, has not been done. So that's the only stretch at 9 miles that hadn't been.
And was that part of Wallace's program? What was the $10 million for? What was he going to
do? The $10 million was just Dallas County.
It was just Dallas County roads, just
yeah.
not
resurfacing.
Not 80 or anything, just that Dallas County.
No,
road.
we just got that announced.
Oh.
You know, but see, I told him, I said, Governor, I said, I voted for the Fob James tax. I can't vote for another. He said, well, Fob James is gone. We're not worried about him. This is today. And if you got to have a plan. I want to help you because I know you got an itch, and I'm going to scratch it for you.
Well, folks, now you know the rest of the story. Like Paul Harvey said, I've told the Noopie Cosby and Nudie story for years and years, and we got the real Noopie Cosby here today to tell y'all the real story, so I hope y'all have enjoyed it. I hate to tell y'all this, but our time's about up. We've been on TV about 30 minutes, but our guest today has been former state representative W.F. Noopie Cosby, who served 16 years in the House from Dallas County, and he's well known over there, still lives over there in Selma, and people still talk about Noopie. They love him over there. He can still run for re-election if he wanted to. But the story of Noopie Cosby and Governor Wallace and the closed-door meeting where he called him Noopie, and Nudie, you need a road program. Y'all have heard the story now. But we also said, we're sort of in that same scenario right now, but we'll get into that some other time.
Yeah.
But y'all, our guest again has been former state representative Noopie Cosby from Selma. And we thank you viewers for watching Alabama Politics. We hope you tune in again next week and watch us on Alabama Politics. We thank you, Noopie.
Thank you, Steve.